At first, everything looked fine. The brand is trusted. The company is booming. The future feels locked in. Then, one decision gets made behind closed doors. Not dramatic, not obviously stupid, just confident. And slowly, almost quietly, things start breaking. Customers don't notice it first. Employees feel it before they can explain it. Investors brush it off as a temporary dip. But by the time the headlines hit, it's already too late. What you're about to hear isn't about bad markets or unlucky timing. It's about moments where one person made a call and an entire empire paid the price. Stay with me, because some of these companies didn't just fail, they were unmade. Number 30, Robert Alene Jr. and Schlitz Brewing. Schlitz wasn't some struggling beer brand, it was the beer, a cultural icon. But Robert Alene Jr. decided efficiency mattered more than taste. His accelerated fermentation process looked great on paper and terrible in reality. Chemical stabilizers reacted, flakes formed, and customers noticed immediately. Schlitz denied the issue at first, which made things worse. Trust evaporated faster than sales. Even after Alene's death, the damage was already done. Schlitz never fully recovered its former dominance. One cost-cutting shortcut turned the beer that made Milwaukee famous into a cautionary tale about messing with what already worked. Number 29, John Antioco and Blockbuster. Blockbuster ruled home entertainment. Late fees printed money. But John Antioco couldn't imagine a future without physical stores. When Netflix offered itself for $50 million, Blockbuster laughed it off. Antioco tried half-measured, online rentals, minor tweaks, but never fully committed. Meanwhile, Netflix bet everything on convenience and patience. By the time Blockbuster reacted seriously, consumer habits had already shifted. Stores became liabilities overnight. Blockbuster collapsed in 2010. Netflix became a global giant. The mistake wasn't ignoring Netflix. It was underestimating how fast behavior changes when friction disappears. Number 28, Stephen Elop and Nokia. Nokia once owned the mobile phone world. Stephen Elop walked in with Microsoft DNA and lit a match. His burning platform memo was meant to motivate, but instead crushed morale. Then he killed Nokia's existing operating systems in favor of Windows Phone, before the alternative was ready. Sales collapsed. Employees were laid off by the tens of thousands. The stock lost most of its value. Ironically, Microsoft later bought Nokia's phone division anyway. Elop's urgency created panic, not innovation. Timing, not just strategy, is what separates bold leadership from self-sabotage. Number 27, Jerry Yang and Yahoo. Yahoo had everything: traffic, brand recognition, money. What it lacked was decisiveness. When Microsoft offered $44.6 billion, Jerry Yang said no, believing Yahoo was worth more. It wasn't. Competition intensified, strategy drifted, and confidence faded. A desperate Google ad partnership collapsed under regulatory pressure. Value kept eroding. By the time Yahoo sold years later, it fetched a fraction of that offer. The tragedy isn't that Yahoo failed, it's that it had a clean exit and walked away. Sometimes pride costs more than failure ever could. Number 26, Stockton Rush and OceanGate. Stockton Rush believed rules slowed innovation. Safety standards were optional. Warnings from experts were ignored. OceanGate's Titan sub wasn't certified the way deep-sea vessels normally are, and Rush openly mocked regulation. In 2023, the inevitable happened. Titan imploded during a Titanic dive, killing everyone on board, including Rush himself. OceanGate shut down as investigations and lawsuits followed. Innovation doesn't mean skipping physics. Rush confused risk-taking with recklessness. And in an environment where mistakes aren't survivable, confidence without restraint becomes fatal. Number 25, Elon Musk and Twitter, X. Elon Musk bought Twitter with bravado and changed everything, too fast. Rebranding it to X erased years of identity overnight. Mass layoffs hollowed out teams responsible for trust and safety. Content moderation dropped, hate speech rose, and advertisers fled. Users followed. The platform didn't vanish, but its value did, losing an estimated 80% in just 2 years. Musk treated a social ecosystem like a code base you can refactor instantly. But communities aren't software, they're fragile. And once trust breaks, no algorithm fixes it quickly. Number 24, Rupert Murdoch and MySpace. MySpace dominated social media before Facebook even mattered. Rupert Murdoch bought it and immediately monetized it hard. Heavy ads slowed the site, cluttered the experience, and annoyed users. Facebook, meanwhile, stayed clean and fast. Migration happened quietly, then all at once. Layoffs followed. The site was sold for a fraction of its purchase price. Number 23, Christopher Skase and Quintex. Christopher Skase built Quintex through aggressive acquisitions fueled by debt. Growth looked impressive until the bills came due. Behind the scenes, Skase was stealing from the company and moving money offshore. When Quintex collapsed in 1991, employees, investors, and creditors were wiped out. Skase fled to Spain and avoided extradition. He died years later without facing consequences. Quintex wasn't destroyed by markets. It was looted from within. When leadership treats a company like a personal vault, collapse isn't a risk, it's a timeline. Number 22. Carly Fiorina and Hewlett-Packard. HP once followed the HP way, valuing people alongside profit. Carly Fiorina changed that culture fast. She demanded pay cuts, then laid off thousands anyway. Morale cratered. Her push to acquire Compaq divided investors and diluted HP's identity. The stock suffered. When Fiorina was forced out, HP's value actually jumped. Her tenure proved something uncomfortable. Restructuring without trust doesn't feel like leadership. It feels like extraction. Efficiency can't replace culture, and once culture breaks, numbers follow. Number 21, Jack Welch and General Electric. Jack Welch made GE a Wall Street darling by obsessing over shareholder value. Layoffs, outsourcing, and relentless expansion delivered short-term gains, but the foundation weakened. Complexity ballooned, debt piled up, risk was normalized. Years after Welch left, GE nearly collapsed and needed emergency help during the 2008 crisis. Welch didn't destroy GE overnight. He optimized it into fragility. His legacy reshaped corporate America, often at the cost of resilience. When profit becomes the only metric, the future quietly gets mortgaged. Number 20, John DeLorean and DeLorean Motor Company. John DeLorean had vision, charisma, and massive funding, but execution failed him. Production delays, soaring costs, and an underwhelming product sank confidence fast. Building the factory in politically unstable Northern Ireland only added pressure. As the company collapsed, DeLorean made a desperate move. A cocaine deal he claimed was meant to save the business. It ended everything. The car became iconic after failure, not before. DeLorean didn't just bet big, he panicked when the bet went wrong, and that sealed his fate. Number 19, Albert Dunlap and Sunbeam. Albert Chainsaw Dunlap specialized in short-term fixes through mass layoff. At Sunbeam, he promised a miracle turnaround. Instead, he inflated revenue by overshipping products and booking fake sales. When the fraud unraveled, Sunbeam collapsed into bankruptcy. Dunlap was fired in disgrace. His strategy boosted stock prices temporarily, but hollowed out the business underneath. Sunbeam didn't fail because it couldn't be saved. It failed because deception replaced discipline, and eventually, the numbers stopped lying. 18. Mitch Lowe and MoviePass. MoviePass sounded magical. Unlimited movies for a flat fee. The math never worked. CEO Mitch Lowe chased growth while ignoring losses, bleeding cash with every ticket sold. When reality hit, the company resorted to desperate tricks. Password resets, blocked movies, price chaos. Trust evaporated. Subscribers fled. MoviePass collapsed, dragging its parent company down too. Innovation without sustainability isn't disruption, it's self-destruction. MoviePass proved that viral growth means nothing if every customer costs you money. Number 17, Angelo Mozillo and Countrywide Financial. Angelo Mozillo built Countrywide into a mortgage giant, then drove it straight into the housing bubble. While publicly reassuring investors, he privately sold off his own stock. Risky subprime loans became the norm. When the market collapsed, Countrywide became the face of predatory lending. It was sold to Bank of America under a cloud of lawsuits and scandal. Mozillo wasn't blindsided. He exited early. The company paid the price for leadership that hedged itself, not its future. 16. Ron Johnson and J.C. Penney. Ron Johnson tried to turn J.C. Penney into Apple without Apple customers. He eliminated coupons, scrapped sales, and rebranded overnight. Loyal shoppers felt betrayed. Sales collapsed by 25% in a single year. Instead of adjusting, Johnson blamed consumers for not understanding. The board fired him in 2013. J.C. Penney was left weaker than before. Johnson proved that success doesn't always transfer. What works in tech culture can fail spectacularly in retail reality. Number 15. Dennis Kozlowski and Tyco. Dennis Kozlowski treated Tyco like a personal expense account. While projecting corporate success, he spent company money on mansions, art, and a $2 million birthday party. Unauthorized bonuses and hidden loans totaled around $150 million. When exposed, trust in Tyco collapsed. Kozlowski went to prison. The company survived, but only after years of reputational damage. Tyco didn't fail operationally, it failed morally. And once leadership integrity breaks, credibility follows it out the door. Number 14, Eddie Lampert and Sears. Eddie Lampert saw Sears as numbered, not stored. He cut costs relentlessly, sold off valuable brands, and starved locations of investment. Departments were forced to compete internally instead of serving customers. Stores decayed, shoppers left. Critics accused Lampert of asset stripping. By 2018, Sears was bankrupt. Lampert preserved his stake, but destroyed the company. Sears didn't die from competition alone. It died from leadership that optimized spreadsheets while ignoring reality on the sales floor. Number 13, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried built FTX on image and secrecy. Behind the scenes, customer funds were secretly moved to his hedge fund for risky bets and personal spending. Investors, users, and partners were blindsided. Bankman-Fried was convicted and sentenced to decades in prison. FTX wasn't a market failure, it was fraud. Number 12, Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes sold a dream that didn't work. Theranos claimed revolutionary blood testing, but secretly relied on traditional machines. Data was manipulated, doubts were silenced, whistleblowers were attacked. The illusion held until it didn't. Theranos collapsed, investors lost billions, and Holmes went to prison. The tragedy isn't just the fraud, it's the patients misled. Vision without truth becomes theater, and when healthcare becomes performance, the fallout is personal, not just financial. Number 11, Richard Fuld and Lehman Brothers. Richard Fuld ignored warning signs and doubled down on risky mortgage assets. Even as the market cracked, he refused mergers and dismissed concern. Lehman collapsed in 2008 with $600 billion in assets, the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history. Global markets panicked. The Great Recession followed. Lehman didn't fail suddenly, it failed stubbornly. Fuld's refusal to adapt turned a crisis into catastrophe. Sometimes leadership isn't about confidence, it's about knowing when to stop. Number 10, Gerald Ratner and Ratner Group. Gerald Ratner didn't destroy his company with fraud or debt. He did it with a joke. At a public speech, he called his own jewelry total crap. Customers heard it, believed it, and left. The stock collapsed almost instantly. Ratner resigned, and the brand had to completely rebrand to survive. The lesson was so clear, it earned a name, the Ratner effect. Sometimes one sentence can undo decades of trust faster than any competitor ever could. Number 9, Ike Batista and OGX. Ike Batista promised Brazil an energy empire and sold investors a future that didn't exist. OGX struck oil, but far less than Batista claimed. He overspent, overhyped, and underdelivered while funding a lavish lifestyle. Confidence evaporated, shares collapsed, and OGX filed for the largest bankruptcy in Latin American history. Batista later faced corruption charges in prison. His downfall showed how dangerous unchecked optimism becomes when it replaces verifiable reality. Number 8, Martin Shkreli and Turing Pharmaceuticals. Martin Shkreli became infamous overnight by raising the price of a life-saving drug from $13.50 to $750 per pill. Public outrage exploded. His smug responses made things worse. Investigations followed, uncovering fraud unrelated to the drug itself. Shkreli went to prison. Turing rebranded, but the damage lingered. The company survived, but its name didn't. Shkreli proved that legality doesn't equal legitimacy, and reputation can collapse faster than revenue grows. Number 7, John Meriwether and long-term capital management. John Meriwether trusted math over reality. His hedge fund, LTCM, used complex models that worked until markets behaved unpredictably. After Russia defaulted on its debt, LTCM lost billions in weeks. The collapse threatened the global financial system, forcing a bailout. The fund dissolved soon after. Meriwether's mistake wasn't intelligence, it was overconfidence. When models ignore human behavior, even Nobel-level math can fail catastrophically. Number 6, Adam Neumann and WeWork. Adam Neumann sold WeWork as a tech revolution, not a real estate company. Behind the hype were losses, conflicts of interest, and erratic leadership. As the IPO approached, scrutiny exposed the gap between vision and reality. Investors fled. Neumann was forced out. WeWork's valuation collapsed from $47 billion to near nothing and later filed for bankruptcy. Culture without discipline isn't innovation, it's chaos with good branding. Number 5. Aubrey McClendon and Chesapeake Energy. Aubrey McClendon helped build Chesapeake Energy into a fracking powerhouse and was widely seen as a visionary leader. But behind the growth, he secretly took personal loans from the same lenders funding his company, crossing ethical lines. When this came to light, investigations followed and trust collapsed. Investors panicked, credibility vanished, and Chesapeake entered years of instability before rebranding. McClendon was later indicted for market manipulation and died a day later, showing how financial creativity turns dangerous when transparency disappears. Number 4. Mike Lazaridis and BlackBerry. Mike Lazaridis helped invent the modern smartphone, but early success blinded BlackBerry to change. The company dominated business communication and believed secure keyboards would always outweigh consumer trends. When the iPhone arrived, leadership dismissed it as a fad. Consumers quickly shifted toward touchscreens, apps, and flexibility. Developers followed the audience, and BlackBerry's ecosystem collapsed. Market share evaporated while leadership hesitated. By the time the company reacted, it was too late. BlackBerry survived only by abandoning phones entirely, proof that innovation buys time, not immunity. Number 3. Frank Lorenzo and Eastern Airlines. Frank Lorenzo believed aggressive cost-cutting was the cure for Eastern Airlines' struggles. Instead, it became the poison. His harsh labor tactics alienated pilots, flight attendants, and ground staff. Strikes followed. Safety violations mounted. Public confidence collapsed. Rather than stabilizing the airline, Lorenzo's approach accelerated its decline. By 1991, Eastern Airlines shut down completely after nearly 70 years in operation. Lorenzo sold off assets and moved on, but the airline never returned. His tenure proved a hard truth. Companies don't collapse only from financial pressure. They collapse when leadership destroys trust with the very people required to keep the business running. Number 2. Nick Leeson and Barings Bank. Nick Leeson was a single trader who brought down a 233-year-old bank. Stationed in Singapore, he began hiding trading losses in a secret account while doubling down in hopes of recovering them. Instead, the losses grew. When an earthquake shook Asian markets, the hidden bets imploded. Almost overnight, Barings Bank collapsed and was sold for just £1. Leeson went to prison, and centuries of reputation vanished instantly. Barings didn't fail because it took risks. It failed because oversight failed. One unchecked individual erased an institution built across generations. Number 1. Bernard Ebbers and WorldCom. Bernard Ebbers turned WorldCom into a telecommunications giant, but not honestly. To maintain the illusion of growth, billions of dollars in expenses were quietly hidden through accounting manipulation. On paper, profits soared. In reality, the business was rotting. When internal auditors uncovered the fraud, WorldCom filed for bankruptcy, then the largest in U.S. history.